Welcome to Speaking Holistically, the podcast that explores the power of alternative medicine, natural healing, and homeopathic solutions to help you achieve true wellness. Each week, Dr. Jen and Amy G dive into the world of holistic health, discussing researched, time-tested remedies with expert insights from Dr. Jen, as well as real-life stories from patients to empower you to take charge of your health. So if you're ready to embrace a more natural path to wellness, let's start speaking holistically, because true healing begins from within. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Speaking Holistically. I'm your co-host, Amy G. I'm here with my amazing co-host, Dr. Jen. And today we're doing a Family Health Hub episode on tympanic membranes.
So that is more commonly known as eardrum. So actually, we weren't going to even go over this today. I was going to do it much later, but I had a friend call me today and said, what do I do to help my son? And I said, well, what's going on? So he's about 11 years old, and he thought it would be funny to stick a Q-tip in his ear, and I guess he must have been cleaning out his ears or whatever, and decided to run through the house. And so he's a silly guy. He's adorable. He's amazing. But if my friend lives through his childhood, we're all going to be surprised. She's like, I don't think I'm going to make it. It's always something. I'm like, I know. And he's amazing, tons of energy. But anyway, long story short, she hears him screaming bloody murder, and there's blood coming out of his ear. So I don't know if he jumped. I don't know if he fell. I don't know what happened. They live across the country. So they take him in, and his tympanic membrane is ruptured, or his eardrum is ruptured. So, and it doesn't have to rupture just because you stuck a Q-tip in there. It could be from an infection. It could be from some sort of trauma, like we just discussed. Different pressure changes, like with flying, if you've already got some inflammation in there, loud noises, and, you know, any kind of foreign object like we just talked about. So she's asking how long it's going to take for it to heal. She's asking all of these questions that every parent wants to know. And I told her it will heal. He most likely will have some hearing loss. It won't be, 50% or anything like that. It'll be a little bit potentially, because if you think of the eardrum or the tympanic membrane, it's similar to the drum head of like an actual like drum set. So when it has no blemishes, it has no issues, and you hit that drumstick on there, it gets that vibration or that reverberation. Mm-hmm. And that's basically that patency, that the health of it basically is where you get your hearing from. So the more scar tissue you have in that area, the less it's going to send sound, essentially, is what it is. Okay. So we talked about what he's going to have to do as an adult, and we'll get there. But I told her that there are 3 layers to the tympanic membrane, one of which is an epithelial layer, which the primary nutrient for epithelial tissue is vitamin A. So doing therapeutic doses of vitamin A for, a short period of time can be very, very helpful. And then you've got the middle fibrous layer, which is composed of fibroelastic, like connective tissue. It contains blood vessels and nerves, which he obviously broke into that layer because he had the bleeding. And then we've got the intermucosal layer made obviously of mucus, which is continuous with the lining of the middle ear. So doing the vitamin A will be helpful. I told her when he's in the shower to put a cotton ball, not a cotton swab, or half of a cotton ball, and don't shove it in. Just keep it kind of on the outside, but push it in just enough to try to block any kind of water going into that. Try not to get it super wet. And he does play baseball, so he's going to be in the dirt. So I told her maybe put a little bit in when he goes and plays baseball from the dirt getting into his ears and stuff like that. Don't put anything inside the ear. Don't put any garlic drops. Don't put anything in there until it's absolutely healed. But some people will get, they'll have chronic ear infections. And so in lieu of that tympanic membrane rupturing, they'll put in tubes. And the tubes cause a tremendous amount of scar tissue. So that will also change the hearing, and people don't realize that. The whole point is to not have that tympanic membrane ruptured, but by putting tubes in, you're rupturing that tympanic membrane. It's a sure thing. So if there's excess fluid for whatever reason, in this case, that wasn't what happened, but if there's excess fluid behind the tympanic membrane, you have to figure out why. Why is the eustachian tube not draining? What's happening with the sinuses? Is it an allergy or hyperhistamine reaction? Is it food choices? Is it yeast? A lot of times that's what it is when kids get recurring ear infections. It's generally a combination of dairy or dairy and sugar. So that's the first thing I have patients go off of is dairy and sugar when they're combating any kind of ear pain that could potentially lead to a rupture. So obviously we talked about later on and how he needs to take care of his ears. We just had a concert this last weekend and people are going there without their earplugs or anything. And I can't say that I was super great when I was younger with concerts. You know, you're in your 20s, you're invincible, you're amazing. And so one thing that we have, and we'll put a link for Amazon down below for Eargasms, and I love these. They're earplugs that have basically a vent in it, if you will, and it brings down the decibels, but it doesn't muffle, so everything is still very, very, very clear.
Wow.
So instead of your regular foam earplugs where you're like, "Mah, mah, mah, mah," you can't hear anything, you know, it's you'll hear everything as clear as it is, but it's not so loud. I swear these concerts, they have all gotten together and have decided they all have to be at, 7,000 decibels. And I'm miserable. I forgot my earplugs in this last concert we went to, and it was an old people concert. We went to see Chicago. And I'm like, man, this is about the only time I wish I had hearing aids so I could take them out. That sort of thing. But it was rough. I literally had to go get a Kleenex or a napkin and rip it into like pieces and shove it into my ear because it was so loud. I wouldn't have lasted 3 minutes in there. So that was one thing I told her. I was like, listen, he's got to take care of his ears. So when he's in his 20s and he think he can go to these concerts and be right up against those speakers, that is the dumbest thing he can do. It's the dumbest thing for everybody, but especially when you've had previous, ear injuries. So that's going to be the biggest thing. But I told her, listen, it's going to take a while to heal. He's not going to have great hearing until it heals because it basically causes the muffling of it. He can have some dizziness or vertigo depending on how many layers he actually completely ruptured, which it sounds like probably everything, and some balance issues as well. So generally this can and will heal on its own, but it's a little bit faster with the vitamin A. And generally just don't put anything in your ears at this point. In bad situations, they can do eardrum surgery. And if it's not healing, they can put like a little patch there to try to close that hole up. But like I said, I'm not there. He's across the country. I have no idea. Yeah. But for anybody else, especially with chronic ear infections, sinus infections where that tympanic membrane bursts or it becomes super, super painful, also chiropractic can be great for this. I've had a lot of people where they'll come in and get adjusted. I adjust their neck and they literally are still laying there on the table and they're like, oh my gosh, I already feel my sinuses draining. So it just takes the pressure off that upper cervical area and allows those eustachian tubes to drain properly. So it can make a huge, huge difference. But in this case, when it's already ruptured, proper nutrients will be helpful and not sticking anything in that ear.
Yeah, this is an episode near and dear to my heart. I have had ear issues, ear aches, ear infections, chronic ear infections throughout my life, starting when I was 2 days old. I had my first ear infection and then it just kind of went from there. So there's lots of pictures of me with earmuffs on or with a stocking cap. I always had cotton balls on my ears to protect it. I'd get earaches when it was windy. The one thing I will say for me that's worked is when I have an earache, I use the ear candle, the beeswax ear candles, the big cones, and they are amazing. If I start to feel pressure and pain, like down my neck here and in my ear. Yeah. And I was born with shorter eustachian tubes than the average Joe. And so I guess that is probably what makes it prone to hurting and having pressure and stuff. So, but I just lay on my side and I just light the ear candle and let it run down. And then when it's done, the pain is gone, pressure's gone, the ache is out. Like it's amazing. So, we'll put a link in the show notes for those two, but it's relaxing. It's just, you just like light the end of this thing, this cone, it just burns. And
I don't know that I would find it relaxing, but we're going to go.
I like it. Well, because it's warm, right? It warms up the ear, canal, it warms everything up. And so it feels, yeah. But I know Pete will watch me because he's making sure there's that 4-inch line that they tell you, like, don't go below this line. every minute he's looking over to see how close it is to the light because he's worried, I guess, my head's gonna light on fire. Now I put a plate between it, like I always stick a
paper plate. Yeah.
I always cut a hole for the cone and put it through there, and I have a plate to protect my face and my hair. So I do want to tell people that don't just stick it in your ear. I always have a paper plate there to protect me. But
so doing a paper plate, you can do a cross on the paper plate, stuff it in there, and then I will put a towel across my whole hair and everything because I'm like, So, and I have somebody monitoring it too if I'm going to do it. So actually, when I first found out about these, it was probably 30 something years ago. And my dad, who's very analytical, very straight-laced, he was like, I had lost my hearing in one of my ears for like a week. And I was like, what is happening? He's like, oh, you should just cone. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'd never heard of it before. So he was like, oh, you just do this and you light it on fire. And I'm like, oh, okay. So like, this is not my dad. Like, this is not how he talks. And I'm thinking, okay, freak job. So we went ahead, I let him do it. And literally by the time the cone had burned, and you can cut it off so that the chimney effect continues to happen. But as soon as he was done with it, like my hearing was 100% back. I thought, I don't even know how this worked, but it worked. So I'm just going to go with it. So yeah, I've done it. I did it to my father-in-law, which he was even more hard-headed than my father. So he endured that for sure, but the coning can be really, really helpful. And I did find I drank a lot of milk when I was a kid. My parents gave me milk with every single meal. And I have found that dairy can super contribute to ear infections. So our first son was born. He had ear infections. We had some other things that went on as well. But as far as his hearing went, when he was exposed to asbestos in the house and insulation. So, but he had ear infections, and I fed him yogurt. I'm like, oh, it's a good source of protein. It's got good probiotics in it. And it wasn't the junk that's out there. It was the natural stuff that with the whole fruit in it and stuff like that. So anyway, he had 3 ear infections. I adjusted him, gave him echinacea astragalus, did a heating pad on the side of his neck to help get everything to drain. And generally by morning, he was fine. Like I looked in there was no redness. There was no, inflammation. The pain was gone, all that stuff. So he had 3 ear infections. And then our second and third and fourth babies were born. And I finally figured out that it was the dairy. So I stopped the dairy with him. With him, he never got another ear infection. So I decided not to give the other 3 any yogurt. We never did any milk in the house ever. We've never done milk. And they've never had an ear infection, none of them. So None of the other 3. So we just made those choices and those changes, because when you do get that, I remember being up screaming in the middle of the night. And my parents are like, oh my gosh, go to sleep already, But I was miserable, absolutely miserable. And then of course I made everybody else miserable. But it was the dairy, and we made our own homemade yogurt. So once again, it wasn't just the junk that's out on the market that is being advertised. But for my body, it was obviously the dairy, and even the natural fruit sugar is involved in that. So
yeah. No, this is, and oh God, when you have an earache or any kind of problems with your ears, it is miserable. It really is. But I love that you brought up the fact that dairy could be the culprit. We haven't had milk in our house for years. We don't drink milk or any of that. But it's interesting that for you, that was problematic. For your children, that was the cause. So just something to consider if our listeners are listening to this or watching this and are having issues with their ears, or maybe their kids are having chronic ear infections, take the dairy away and see what happens. So.
Well, and it also takes, from what I've been reading, it takes about 3 weeks for the dairy proteins to get out of the blood. So when people go, I stopped it for 2 days and didn't notice the difference. I'm like, okay, well, once again, it's like drinking a glass of water a day and for 2 days and being like, nothing's any better. It's like, you have to give it a little bit of time. So yeah, so it can make a huge difference, but I found that without dairy and without sugar, most of my pediatric patients have never had another ear infection. And if their parents are feeding that, if they start to get symptoms, they literally stop, they pull way back and give them a good probiotic, which is often PB8 or mega SporeBiotic or something, echinacea, astragalus, and getting a good adjustment, a good neck adjustment obviously will help drain everything so that the body can do what it needs to do to get rid of that excess bacteria. So
Yeah. Yeah, really good.
or yeast, yeah, whatever's causing it, really.
Yeah, it could be yeast too.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Dr. Jen. This was a great episode, as always. This one, again, near and dear to my heart. Thanks, everybody, for listening. If you haven't joined our school community before, we'll put the link in the show notes. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until next time, everybody, bye-bye.
That wraps up another episode of Speaking Holistically. Thank you for listening. We hope today's conversation gave you new insights and inspiration to take charge of your health. If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear more, be sure and join the Speaking Holistically school community by clicking the link in the show notes. There, you'll get access to daily podcast episodes, weekly live Q&As, educational content, and so much more. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until next time, be well, stay curious, and keep speaking holistically.